It was a billion-dollar dumpster fire, started by two titans of entertainment and business. Quibi was supposed to be a whole new kind of entertainment. Instead, the streaming service collapsed harder and faster than anyone thought possible. Critics blame the founders themselves for boneheaded business blunders. Here's the incredible story of Quibi, the billion-dollar showbiz disaster. It's 2018. Jeffrey Katzenberg had a blockbuster idea. He was going to change the way people watched movies. The big money investors sat up in their seats. But why? Who the heck was Jeffrey Katzenberg? He was Hollywood royalty, a veteran producer and CEO, one of the most famous guys in the business. You may not know Jeff, but you know the movies: Shrek, The Lion King, Pretty Woman. Success after success in a cutthroat business. When Katzenberg promised an entertainment revolution, people with money lined up around the block. He told them he was going to launch a video streaming service, but this wouldn't be another Netflix or Amazon Prime. This was going to kick off the third great era of film. First came movies, then television, and now Quibi. Quibi would be an app that would offer feature-length movies and shows broken up into chunks. Everyone was watching short videos on their phones. This new TikTok app was doing numbers. Quibi was going to be like that, only better, classier. People could watch the A-list actors they loved in 10-minute chapters. And one more thing, it was only going to be available on phones. It was an audacious pitch. To boost the project's cred, Katzenberg brought a powerful friend on board. Meg Whitman was an influential entrepreneur with a track record of her own. When she started at eBay, the company had just 30 staff. She transformed the online marketplace into an $8 billion commercial empire. When Whitman talked, investors listened. And Whitman was bullish on Quibi. She pushed the idea that Quibi was for the in-between moments. Your commute, standing in line for coffee, waiting for a friend. It was entertainment for people on the go. Katzenberg and Whitman were their idea of a dream team. It was like a master chef teaming up with a world-class architect to build the perfect restaurant. Vault doors opened wide. The tidal wave of cash that poured into Quibi stunned the industry. A staggering $1.75 billion in a matter of weeks. Warner Media, Sony, Alibaba, Goldman Sachs. No one wanted to be left behind. In fact, the hype was so ripe that nobody seems to have asked a key question. Does anyone actually want it? People love watching short videos on their phones. But there was already a TikTok, and TikTok was free. Quibi was $5 a month, or $8 without ads. Did people really want to pay money for mobile-only short-form content? The founders were running on pure trust us vibes, betting that if they built it and built it big enough, people would come. And with $1.75 billion in the bank, you can afford to make a few mistakes, right? Quibi's approach was more like trying to build a skyscraper by starting with the penthouse. Steven Spielberg, Jennifer Lopez, Reese Witherspoon, Kevin Hart. It was classic go big or go home. What did that mean in practice? Before anyone had seen a single program, before the Quibi app had even launched, more than half of the money was gone. They'd spent it on content. $6 million per hour of entertainment. Sure, they'd sold $150 million in advertising, but they'd spent another $400 million on marketing, including a Super Bowl ad. The Quibi project was massively expensive, while its logic and tech were largely untested. When you're sure your idea is a winner, what are you going to learn from other points of view? Plus, the money was already spent. At this point, Quibi needed to work. However, very late in the process, with launch day on the horizon, the Quibi Brain Trust decided to make sure audiences would get the app. A pool of beta testers was assembled to put the app through its paces. After spending some time with Quibi, the testers spoke with one clear voice, and that voice said, meh. They didn't just dislike Quibi, they were actively confused by it. Why can't I watch this on my TV? Why can't I share screenshots of the good stuff? Why is this so expensive when TikTok is free? It wasn't authentic and addictive like TikTok. It wasn't immersive like Netflix. It was stuck in between. It didn't satisfy like a meal or delight like a snack. But $1.75 billion was already committed. The launch date was set. Admitting failure at this point wasn't an option. They had time to refine the product. They just needed a hit show to help build momentum. Then, something wild happened. It seemed like the project had caught a weird kind of break. If this twist has you hooked, tap like and subscribe. The biggest reveal is still ahead, because what comes next will change the way you see this entire story. When Quibi launched in April 2020, it ran smack into the middle of a global crisis. COVID-19 had turned everything upside down. Quibi was supposed to be for people on the go. The homebound were desperate to be entertained. What better time to launch an exciting new entertainment platform? That possibility was still alive a few hours into the launch. Thousands of people were downloading the new app. That's when they started to post jokes, and memes, and complaints. Some users were amused, others were frustrated. Why did a platform desperate for attention stop its users from sharing screenshots? Quibi had built an anti-social platform in the age of social media. Meanwhile, TikTok and Instagram were exploding with shareable content. The absolute deal breaker, though, was the content. There were no must-see shows, no water cooler moments, no viral potential, no hits. Users complained that the shows seemed lousy. No takers for the show about a woman who befriends her boyfriend's sentient sex doll? After all the hype, reality was smacking Quibi's founders in the face. They knew they were in big trouble, and that was before the numbers came in. Like when the first 90-day free trials started expiring. Conversion rates were abysmal. A successful streaming service will turn about 70% of trial users into paying customers. Quibi's conversions were a pathetic 8%. The app was also on track to reach only 2 million subscribers by year's end. Not even close to the 7.4 million they had promised investors. And with the number of daily active users plummeting, the media smelled blood. The finger-pointing was intense. Whitman blamed the product strategy. Engineers blamed leadership. And Katzenberg, well, he had an interesting theory. We'll get to that in a moment. Humiliatingly, within weeks of launch, they rushed to add TV casting. So much for the innovative phone-only approach. In the end, Quibi did actually achieve a first in the history of streaming media. Unfortunately, it wasn't the milestone they were aiming for. Just 90 days after launch, while some users were still in their free trial, Meg Whitman started shopping Quibi around to potential buyers. That's how long it took to go from the third great era of film to please someone take this train wreck off our hands. Industry insiders were stunned. Streaming services take years to find their footing. Netflix lost money for over a decade. Quibi was ready to throw in the towel after one quarter. The rejections were swift and brutal. Netflix passed. Apple passed. Everyone took a look and said, no thanks. The Quibi situation stunk so badly, they wouldn't even buy it at fire sale prices to save face. On October 21, 2020, just 199 days after launch, Quibi announced it was shutting down. Investors would eventually get back just $600 million. The other $1.25 billion, that was gone. Was Jeffrey Katzenberg ready to admit he'd screwed up? No, it all would have worked out, he said, except for bad luck. I attribute everything that has gone wrong to coronavirus. But what happened to other streaming services during the pandemic? Disney Plus added 100 million subscribers. Netflix added 36 million subscribers. TikTok became the most downloaded app globally. YouTube viewing time skyrocketed. The pandemic was a gift to digital entertainment. It was a massive surge in consumption. But Quibi? It was paying $100,000 to acquire every customer it signed up. That is not a formula for success. The pandemic didn't kill Katzenberg's streaming service. The people stuck at home were desperate for entertainment. They just weren't desperate for Quibi. The truth was more brutal than any pandemic excuse. Quibi was a product stuck in a valley of irrelevance. It wasn't better than Netflix for binge-watching shows. It wasn't better than TikTok for quick, shareable fun. Katzenberg's big idea was a solution in search of a problem, wrapped up in Hollywood glamour and Silicon Valley confidence. It burned through $1 billion, trying to solve a problem that didn't exist. The Quibi story ended with a quiet fire sale. The entire content library cost over $1 billion to make. It was sold to Roku for less than $100 million. The shows, meant to define a new era of entertainment, were just rebranded as Roku Originals and all but given away for free. Quibi's actual legacy was a brutal, expensive lesson. It's a story about the danger of believing your own hype. It's a powerful reminder that you have to be obsessed with your customer and that sometimes having too much money is a curse. And for more stories of business breakdowns, remember to like and subscribe.